Picture this. You open Genesis, you read one sentence, and suddenly someone tells you the entire Bible is a mistranslated codebook. Hebrew isn't Hebrew. God is secretly the gods. The earth was reset by a cataclysm, and one English word, replenish, proves there was a whole civilization before Adam. It's intoxicating. It feels like you've been handed the real version of reality, hidden in plain sight, kept from you by translators, churches, and history itself. But here's the problem. Most of these viral claims don't collapse because of theology, they collapse because of grammar. Not vibes, not conspiracies, not what it sounds like in English. Actual Hebrew structure. Singular verbs, context, how Semitic languages work, the difference between a word looking plural and functioning plural, the difference between poetic devastation imagery and a literal pre-Adamic sci-fi chronicle. So in this video, I'm going to do something simple and extremely rare. I'm going to take every major claim you just heard, Hebrew versus Phoenician, Elohim led us, tohu vavohu, became, replenish, Genesis 18:19, Nibiru, the whole thing, and I'm going to run it through one filter. Does the text actually say that? No strawmen, no insults, no hand-waving, just point by point. What the Hebrew can mean, what it cannot mean, and exactly where the leap happens from interesting to invented. And here's what I promise you. By the end, you won't need me to tell you what's true. You'll be able to hear it for yourself. Because once you see how the language works, the smoke clears. All right, let's start where every one of these theories starts. Hebrew isn't Hebrew. Who is Jordan Maxwell? Maxwell was an esoteric researcher and symbolism-focused speaker, not a Hebrew linguist or biblical textual scholar. His work blends wordplay, symbolism, conspiracy history, and selective philology. That doesn't automatically make everything wrong, but it means claims must be checked against actual Hebrew grammar and ancient Near Eastern context. 1. Hebrew is misunderstood. Partly true, but misleading. Biblical Hebrew is often simplified in English translations, but that's not the same as being wrong. Hebrew is context-driven, not philosophical in the modern sense. Words often have semantic ranges, not hidden codes. Meaning comes from grammar plus usage plus literary genre, not isolated word roots. Maxwell frequently treats Hebrew like encoded English riddles, which is not how Semitic languages work. 2. Elohim is plural equals gods? This is the most common claim and one of the most misunderstood. The facts. Elohim is grammatically plural. When referring to the God of Israel, it takes singular verbs. This construction is called a plural of majesty / intensity. Example, Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, God singular created. If Elohim meant multiple gods here, Hebrew must use plural verbs. It does not. Conclusion? The grammar rules out multiple gods creating together in Genesis 1. 3. Let us make man in our image. This is a legitimate interpretive discussion, but not in the way Maxwell frames it. Scholarly explanations include 1. Divine council language, God addressing heavenly beings, not equals. 2. Royal we, attested in ancient Near Eastern kingship language. 3. Later Trinitarian interpretation, theological, not linguistic. What it does not imply. A race of physical gods, prior advanced civilizations, alien creators. The text stays within ancient Hebrew monotheistic cosmology, even while using plural speech. 4. Tohu vavohu equals cataclysm, reset? This means desolation and emptiness, uninhabitable wasteland, used elsewhere for judgment imagery, not destroyed civilizations. It does not linguistically imply a destroyed world, a previous creation, a technological collapse. That idea comes from later speculative theology, not the Hebrew text itself. 5. Replenish the earth. This is the weakest claim. This argument collapses under historical linguistics. The Hebrew word male means fill. 1611 King James Version used replenish meaning fill up, not refill. English meaning changed later. Every modern translation renders it correctly. Be fruitful and fill the earth. No prior population is implied. This is an English language allusion, not a Hebrew one. 6. Metaphor versus history, where Maxwell overreaches. Yes, Genesis uses symbolic language. It employs cosmic temple imagery. It reflects ancient Near Eastern thought. No, it does not encode erased civilizations. It does not secretly No, it does not encode erased civilizations. It does not secretly describe Atlantis. It does not hint at pre-Adamic advanced races. Those ideas come from 19th to 20th century speculative movements, not ancient Judaism. Final verdict: Jordan Maxwell is provocative, not precise. Claim: Hebrew mistranslated. Verdict: overstated. Claim: Elohim equals multiple gods. Verdict: grammatically false. Claim: tohu vavohu equals reset. Verdict: unsupported. Claim: replenish implies prior world. Verdict: English error. Claim: Genesis is symbolic. Verdict: yes. Claim: Genesis hides lost civilization. Verdict: no evidence. Bottom line: Maxwell starts with real questions, then leaps past the evidence. Genesis is deep. It is ancient. It is symbolic in places. But it is not a hidden sci-fi chronicle, and the Hebrew text does not support that conclusion. 1. Hebrew isn't Hebrew, it's Phoenician Canaanite. This is a half-true, half-spin. Biblical Hebrew and Phoenician are both Canaanite languages, a Northwest Semitic subgroup. They're closely related cousins, not the same thing. What is very connected, the early Hebrew script, or Paleo-Hebrew, is derived from the Phoenician alphabet tradition. That's about writing, not the Bible isn't Hebrew. So, calling Hebrew Phoenician is like calling Spanish Italian because both are Romance languages and share an alphabetic lineage. Related does not equal identical. 2. Genesis 1:1 doesn't say God created. It says Elohim the gods created. This is where he misleads by ignoring grammar. Yes, Elohim looks plural as a noun form, but in Genesis 1:1 the verb is singular. Bara, he created. Hebrew grammar here reads singular subject plus singular verb. That is why translators render it God, not gods. If the author meant the gods created, you'd expect a plural verb. Maxwell's ad-im equals plural, therefore gods, is like saying news ends with s, therefore it's plural. Language doesn't work that mechanically. 3. Let us make man in our image equals multiple gods are aliens? The plural, us, our, is real. The conclusion is not. A very common scholarly explanation is divine council language. God speaks in the presence of heavenly beings, not equal creator gods. That fits the ancient Near Eastern setting without breaking biblical monotheism. Maxwell treats us as a smoking gun for polytheism aliens, but the text doesn't require that. 4. Genesis 1:2 was versus became plus tohu vavohu. Maxwell stacks two moves here. A. The earth became. Hebrew allows was, or in some contexts became, depending on syntax and context. The verse itself doesn't force a prior world catastrophe. B. Tohu vavohu means a cosmic reset, destroyed civilization. Not supported. Tohu vavohu is used to describe desolation, uninhabitable wasteland, and later prophets use it as judgment imagery, evoking creation undone, not advanced civilizations got wiped out. The phrase shows up in Jeremiah 4:23 and Isaiah 34:11 precisely as prophetic devastation imagery, again, not history of Atlantis. So waste desolation is a fair sense of the phrase, therefore a pre-Adamic civilization is the leap. 5. The replenish the earth argument, Genesis 1:28 and 9:1. This one is simply an English trap, not Hebrew. The Hebrew verb is male, fill. The KJV's replenish in 1611 commonly meant fill up, supply fully, not refill because it used to be filled. So Maxwell's re means do it again is modern English wordplay, not the Hebrew meaning. 6. Genesis 18 and 19. 3 men, the Lord, angels. Maxwell's summary is also slanted here. Genesis 18 depicts 3 visitors. Later, Genesis 19 focuses on 2 who go to Sodom and are called messengers or angels. The narrative uses human appearance to communicate encounter, hospitality, and judgment. That's not a proof text for DNA engineering. It's a story about covenant, justice, and hospitality. Maxwell reads it as sci-fi because that's his lens. 7. Nibiru, 3,600-year orbit. The U.S. Navy confirmed exoplanets. This is where he moves from Bible talk to pseudoscience. NASA explicitly discusses the hypothetical Planet 9, Planet X idea as a very distant object on a long, elongated orbit, and notes there's no scenario of it colliding with Earth or causing days of darkness. On another note, I worked for both NASA and the Navy, and I don't think they really care much about Nibiru. Nibiru, as a returning planet on a 3,600-year orbit, is a modern fringe story popularized via Sitchin-style claims, not an established scientific finding. So, there may be a distant planet does not equal Nibiru is real and the Navy confirmed it. 8. Quick note on his God is dog spelled backwards style. That's pure English wordplay. It has zero relevance to Hebrew Elohim, Yahweh, or anything in the ancient text. It's rhetorical theater. The real takeaway. Maxwell does this repeatedly. Start with something that sounds scholarly, language families, plural endings, rare Hebrew phrases, strip it from grammar and context, and jump to a cosmic narrative, pre-Adamic civilizations, aliens, and hidden rulers. Claims that the Bible has been fundamentally mistranslated, particularly in Genesis, have circulated for decades, most prominently through the lectures of Jordan Maxwell and related writers. These arguments typically assert that Hebrew is not really Hebrew and Elohim means gods in a literal polytheistic sense, that tohu, vavohu describes a prior destroyed civilization, and the word replenish proves Earth was repopulated after an earlier human epoch. From there, the narrative often expands into extraterrestrial creators, lost dispensations, and cosmic wars hidden beneath the biblical text. While these claims are rhetorically compelling, they do not withstand linguistic, grammatical, or historical analysis. What follows is a point-by-point rebuttal grounded in the actual structure of biblical Hebrew and the conventions of ancient Near Eastern literature. Conclusion. Why these claims persist and why they fail. The ideas you just heard are powerful not because they're well supported, but because they feel like revelation. They promise hidden knowledge. They flatter the listener with the sense that they see what others cannot, and they wrap speculation in just enough linguistic truth to sound authoritative. But when you slow everything down, when you stop chasing implications and instead follow the text itself, the pattern becomes clear. Every major claim depends on the same move. 1. Isolate a word. 2. Strip it from its grammar. 3. Reinterpret it through a modern English or modern imagination. 4. Build an entire cosmic narrative on the result. That is not scholarship, that is myth-making. Hebrew is not decoded by suffixes alone. Meaning does not come from how a word sounds in English. Plurals do not override verb agreement. Poetry does not become prehistory just because it's vivid. And ancient texts do not secretly describe modern science simply because we want them to. What actually emerges when Genesis is read carefully is something far more coherent and far more restrained. A monotheistic text using the shared literary language of its time. A theology expressed through symbolism, not a biology textbook. A story about order, purpose, and responsibility, not erased civilizations and alien wars. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't need hidden gods to explain human violence, power, or corruption. History already does that painfully well. When we attribute human cruelty to non-human entities, we don't uncover truth, we evade responsibility. The Bible does contain depth. It does contain metaphor. It does challenge modern assumptions, but it does not require us to abandon grammar, history, or reason to uncover it. Real understanding isn't secret. It isn't encoded. It doesn't require a decoder ring. It requires patience. And once you apply that patience, the smoke clears, and what remains is not less meaningful, but more honest. That's where I'll leave it.